What's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. Paladins is a game that can be played by just about anyone, as there are a lot of different champions that have their own fun and unique playstyles and different levels of skill needed to play them. Some champions seem to be built just for beginners, like Victor and Leon, while others require a more experienced player to be played. Those champions we'll be looking at today as we check out my picks for the top 5 most difficult champions in Paladins. These champions will be judged based off of their general skill floor, as well as how difficult it is to use their kits given their respective classes. So with all that being said, let's check out the 5th most difficult champion in the realm. Number 5. Evie. Evie makes her way onto this list because she is, although one of the best flankers out there, quite difficult to play. Evie is a flank, so her job is to go behind enemy lines and assassinate the squishy snipers, damage troops, and supports that lie there. She excels at this with 2 powerful movement abilities that have fairly low cooldowns, but they can be rather tricky to use. Evie's blink is a really effective way to get around, but in practice it can be difficult at times to use, especially when used in a popular combo in which you blink above someone and rain down frozen blasts from the sky. Her soar movement ability isn't too difficult to master, as long as you don't fly in a straight line like most beginners do. If you fly in a straight line towards Kinessa, for instance, you're going to get sniped if the Kinessa is even semi-decent. It's best to swerve around in the air, which a lot of beginner Evies fail to pull off. This isn't too difficult, but it is good to note. Evie's weapon is another huge reason why she makes this list. Her ice staff shoots a slow-moving explosive projectile that is extremely potent, but is absolutely terrible at even mid-ranged combat because it is hard to directly hit someone. For Evie to be effective, she has to get extremely close to her target and almost has to aim at the floor to consistently hit someone, which is definitely more difficult to pull off than simply shooting them like a Buck or a Talus. Evie also has an extremely low health pool, which makes going near someone even more risky than some of the tankier flanks that have hundreds more hit points than she does. Evie is generally a tough champion to play, which is why she makes number 5 on this list. Number 4. Bomb King. Bomb King blasts his way onto this list with one of the most difficult weapons in the realm to master. While a professional Bomb King like me sees no fault with Bomb King's cute little subject, most normal players will definitely struggle more with Bomb King's weapons than most other champions. His bombs are projectiles, so you have to sort of predict where the enemy is going to be before throwing them, so you can stick them onto the enemy directly. This requires some precise aim to pull off, but if you miss, there's still an opportunity to hit the enemy, just maybe for less damage. If you get the bomb relatively close but don't stick it onto the enemy, you can blow it up mid-air and still hit your opponent. This is almost more difficult than actually sticking the bomb onto the enemy, as it requires both precise timing and distance judgment to deal damage. Bomb King's sticky bombs are leagues more complicated than a simpler weapon like the numerous rifles in the game. Bomb King's kit is also a bit of a challenge. His movement ability requires a poppy bomb to be placed and detonated in the opposite direction of where he needs to go in order to get him around effectively. And his grumpy bomb, poppy bomb, and ultimate ability all have numerous different strategies and combos that can take some time and practice to learn and pull off. If you want to learn some of these, you can check out my How to Play Bomb King video, because there are some good tricks to know in that video if you want to get better at this difficult champion to master. Overall, Bomb King's difficult kit and complicated weapons put him at number 4 on this list. Number 3. Strix. Snipers are famous for being more difficult to play than other classes, regardless of the game. Strix is no exception. Strix has a more traditional sniper rifle that deals a solid 1200 damage, and a semi-automatic sidearm that deals a substantial 250 damage a shot. He can go invisible, but a sound effect does play when he's nearby, so once a flanker knows where he's sniping from, they can find him without too much trouble even if they don't have Illuminate, the direct counter to this invisibility. The other problem with Strix that makes him difficult is that he has absolutely no movement ability. Once a flank comes up on you and tries to kill you, you have no other option but to fight them, as running is virtually impossible. Countering a flank relies on how good your aim is and how fast you can shoot your sidearm. When you're not inhibited by bloodthirsty flanks, putting out damage is relatively easy, although precise aim is even more important than some of the easier rifles like Victor's or Vivian's, because the longer wait time in between each shot makes missing more punishing. Overall, Strix is one of the most difficult champions to play in Paladins, but he is not completely vulnerable in close quarters combat, which makes him slightly easier than the next champion on this list. Number 2. Kinessa. Kinessa and Strix both have their pros and cons that make them preferred by some players and hated by others. Strix is more well-rounded, being decent at close quarters combat and still strong, but not the very best at long-range combat. Kinessa is much less so. She is by far the more potent sniper, able to put out over 3,000 damage a shot in the right circumstances, but she definitely suffers in close quarters combat. Her carbine is slower and deals less damage than Strix's pistol, and it also has a terrible spread. If a flank tries to kill her, she must either deal the first blow with a sniper shot and then try to take away their last few hit points with her carbine, or she can run. It is definitely more difficult to deal with flanks with Kinessa than Strix, as even if Kinessa teleports away, if she's being attacked by a competent flank like Evie or Maeve, she can be chased super easily. She also has less visibility than Strix. Strix can shoot out a flare that reveals all enemies within its range, while Kinessa has mines that don't show what enemy they're attacking or what that enemy is doing. Just a counter, ticking away 4 damage at a time. It is also slightly more difficult to read where they're going with the mines than with the flare, so overall Kinessa has less visibility than Strix. While she does have a movement ability, the rest of Kinessa's abilities make her slightly more difficult to play than Strix. Number 1. Androxus. Androxus is notorious for having an extremely high skill floor. Androxus has a pistol with a terrible spread and a drunken effect that Hi-Rez likes to call recoil, that makes him pretty much worthless at mid-range. If you can get close to someone and land your shots with precise aim successfully, he can kill someone pretty quickly, but getting near someone is no easy task. Androxus' Nether Step is one of the absolute worst movement abilities a flanker could have. Why, you ask? Nether Step is extremely loud, the exact opposite of what a flank should be. Sneaking up on a target is virtually impossible with his movement ability, and once the ability is gone, it has an extremely long cooldown, making it so that once you're in a fight, it's very hard to get out. He can use his reversal to buy him a few seconds and try to escape, but he can still be easily chased. If he could store each Nether Step in its own separate charge like a legendary card used to allow, he could be much less difficult to maneuver and could be a much better flank. But because his movement ability is so restrictive and all-in, his skill level required is greatly increased. Androxus has a very limited playstyle as well. Because he can't poke from the backlines nearly as effectively as Talus, Lex, or even Moji, his sole ability is to flank. With Nether Step being such a terrible movement ability and his gun being one of the most difficult to aim and kill with, you have to be extremely skilled not just at aiming and shooting, but at Paladins itself. You have to know when to attack, when to pull back, when to use your abilities so that you'll have them when you need them, and a whole load of other information like map knowledge and the best routes to take. You also need to be amazing at predicting what enemies are going to do and where they are going to go, which is extremely difficult. Androxus requires such a stupidly high level of skill to be effective in battle that he must be the most difficult champion on this list. No one else even comes close. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video of my picks for the top 5 most difficult champions in Paladins. Who do you think is the hardest champion to play? Let me know down in the comments section below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.